your chance to know. Let me show you why. Let me show you why. Let me show you why. Let me show you why.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Um, this is Tony Bahama with the Humblest Opinion and Malik Adegamba. We have a very, very special guest here today for our show. Definitely, we strive to be the pulse of Caribbean and Bahamian news. But before we get into who our guest is and what they have to say, we have to say our disclaimer. First and foremost, the humblest opinion is brought to you by AB2C Broadcasting, B Caribbean TV, and Professional Renaissance Protection Services. Our, our show is brought to you via an at-will platform. The ideas, views, disseminations, thoughts, and every other thing that potentially could come out of this show is brought to you via at-will platform and an at-will service. If, for whatever reason, you feel or you don't like or disagree with anything of this, you have the right to choose and exercise your right to choose. But if you do stay or you do intend to listen, or you do hear anything from this platform, you are 100% liable and we are 100% non-liable for any ideas, thoughts, expressions, and or disseminations. Today, on the humblest opinion, we have a very special guest, one who we would consider who is the definite general political pulse of the country and a man that is doing great works to help Bahamians and help Caribbean people see and think relative to the wool, the proverbial wool that is being pulled over their eyes. But a KCX, how are you today?
Hey, what's up? The humblest experience. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Correct. First and foremost, I mean, we all have questions. We have a few thoughts. If there's anything, first of all, tell us about your experience and your forays into, why you've gotten to the point to express, or try to help and enlighten some of our people.
Well, first of all, I've been I've been in the oven for a minute, man. From my childhood, I grew up in Hawksbill. I was
Right.
born in Andros, and I grew up in Hawksbill. And in that day, in those days, we didn't have any fathers. It was about probably 30 of us, and I was probably the oldest, a young man on the streets, and we protected each other. Um, uh, People called us a gang. They called us the Hawksbill Syndicates, and so they say I was a leader of a gang, and uh, we were a different type of gang, though. We never had a gun. We fought a lot, but we fought to protect our. We protected the area and the neighborhoods, and that's what we did. But we had no one to guide us. But one of the things we did was we went over the bridge in the east in the pine forest, and we built log cabins, and we spend weekends up there. And that's where a lot of us learn how to swim and take care of ourselves and fish and eat. And it was a time to pour into each other. And every one out of our group became successful men in our community. So, and that's one of the things that is missed out, out of the activism. People don't get to hear about that side of KCX because that's my true love, building men. You know,
Right.
even after uh, adulthood, 19, 20, out of school, I'm learning how to do body work and at Camp Motors. I, I've taught so many people how to do body work and how to take care of themselves, the trades. Just about everybody on Queens Highway, I've taught how to use their hands, and that they used to call me the master. I was the master at that. As a matter of fact, there was I got to tell this story. This is one of I just love this one. Um, there was a guy by the name of Greg Newbold, one of my teachers. Um, when I was into my own groove, my shop going, and I'm the talk of the town, I found this Mercedes Benz, and it was rotten to the ground. And I just loved it. I fell in love with it. All the doors are rotten off, and the back trunk and everything. It was beige, and I changed the color to green. Put some nice chrome rims on that. And I pulled up to Greg. I said, Greg, show me where this car was mashed. Greg said, listen to me, boy. I don't, after he checked out the car, he said, listen, son, I don't play with children and I don't eat children food. This car was never mine. That's how good I was, and I taught so many. I've even taught two women how to do body work, and they are the best.
Wow.
You know, and when you talk about pouring into people, that's what I've been doing all my life. I started I coached football. There was a program we had it in 2013, 14, and we had over 300 young men in this program, and we were getting them off to college and universities. I mean, left, right, and center, and that's what I am all about, building men. I'm a disciplinarian. Um, One time, to tell you this one, where my wife said to me, there's these people in my office, and they said they need to see you because they hear you're good with young men, and they're coming at your shop. I said, please send them, tell them come down here. So when they came, they said, well, if you can't deal with him, he's going to program, sure. I said, okay, no problem. I said, could you step out of the office for me a minute? When they stepped out of the office, I said, come here, young man. I hugged this young man, and he melted in my arms, just wanted to cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I got home, she's like, what did you do? I said, he just needed a hug. Some men just needed to be hugged. Somebody told us that we shouldn't cry. We shouldn't be, hug a man. We should be, alpha man. You're tough. Sometimes we won't let down. We want to just break down and scream sometimes. I've been there. And I never heard my mom say she loved me. My dad, I met my dad when I was 33.
Mm.
So I had to go look for him, and they both died, and I never heard, I loved you. I never heard it. So that love that I desire, I'm just... Go ahead, sorry.
The love you desire, you just poured into...
Yeah.
To others who needed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm saying you said you really said a mouthful, and it's commendable from what it is that I'm hearing. And as you said, this information wasn't really out there much like that because I'm learning about it now.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of KCX videos and heard KCX speak quite a bit over the course of the years because it got to be about 30 years or so you've been doing this, and your things have been floating around. You spoke on some things that I consider to be very commendable.
Mm-hmm.
That our youth really need to focus and understand on. You started off with the fact that you guys were building log cabins.
Mm-hmm.
That's being able to provide shelter for yourself and your family, which is extremely commendable.
Mm-hmm.
You speaking about being able to go out there and do that. This is outdoor survival training. That is something that we are really, really lacking as a people. Because if if and when the power goes out, and you know how things are with hurricanes and whatnot, but suppose we have something more devastating like a Dorian, and now you have to literally be outside. You have to be able to build a fire. You have to be able to build some sort of shelter after the situation. These are the type of things that our men really need to learn. And then you spoke about, trying to mentor people, teaching them how to utilize their hands, which is extremely important. A lot of people think that the only good jobs are suit and ties, when it's the labor force, the true labor force that builds any country, And then finally, you were speaking about the young man, and this is true. A lot of people do need love. They don't know how to express themselves, and so that emotion comes out sometimes in the wrong way, and once it's put in the wrong hands, then it becomes catastrophic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to tell you what happened to that young man. In our football program, we had a tutor that you had to maintain a certain grade point average in order to play. That young man, he got a full scholarship.
Yeah, it's a success story simply based off just generally what's a hug.
I'm telling you, there are tons of stories like that, and I want to get back to that. That's my true love, But when you've been building men, and you notice that they're not going to have a country. You're going to feel like a failure because it's like you didn't tell us this was going to happen. You told us if we played the game by the rules and stay out of trouble that these things would not happen. So I'm now trying to lead by example and showing them, first of all, you got to know who you are, what you're worth, and this is your country.
Yeah.
You know something that a quote that's there. In order to be able to overcome the lies, you have to first recognize the lie that is holding you back. So, what you did just now was hit on the point that we have to identify the fact that we've been lied to, and we have to now focus on ways to make things right by making certain that we understand that, hey, this is for us. We have to do the work. We can't depend on them because they're only going to be lying to us. Mm-hmm. So now that's what made you the activist. So speak about the Enough movement, right? And then we can move on to how the Enough movement ended up linking to the evolution movement.
Yeah. Before we get into that, gotta chime in on this. I mean, and I have to say this. Because a lot of our people, when I say our people, I mean only our Bahamian people, I mean our black people, our melanated people, believe that, we've a lot of them have been, confused so much so to the point that they believe that love speech is hate speech. If you tell black brothers stand up for themselves and do the right thing and try to be a good father, try to be a good person, try to be a good individual in society, try to stand up for your country, that is somehow gets perverted and twisted into being, well, that person is a radical, or that person wants to hate and to kill and is demonized in a negative way. But when someone in American culture that's white or Caucasian or something else like that from a different country, they says, give me liberty or give me that. That then, he's so valiant and has an effort and they're doing such good things. But, namely in Bahamian culture and our culture, it's polarizing, because people would classify anybody that makes a stand for what is right and true. And I've seen, and I'm an advocate, I'm a believer in seeing some of the works and things that Brother KCX has kind of brought to the forefront. What else could be more important than your country? And how, in the land where you stand and where you live, so just gotta preface everything we say in that regard, so the people who are listening could check themselves or think on what is going on, or think on what is wrong with what they're thinking, and rewire things properly. But X, please.
Well, I feel because that's why I want to speak on the formation of the Enough movement now, because my assumption is that these are the things that were going through KCX's mind before he created his movement. What led him to that path to start this journey, because I mean, when I say a wealth of knowledge, a lot of Bahamian history I learned watching KCX videos, I could be honest, because certain things are just not there in black and white. A lot of things are not reported on the news, or if it is, then it's overlooked or it wasn't highlighted. A lot of things go on behind closed doors. The information is there, mind you, but they're just not presenting it to you. And so you have someone who does the investigative journalism and says, hey, you guys need to realize that this is what's really going on. So I'd like to know what got you to start the movement, how long the movement was going on, certain things that took place, and how that ended up intertwining with this new modern day evolution movement, because some of the things that are being discussed are things that y'all have been talking about a long time.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate the compliments. We have a country where they've told us that we should know our place and speak when we're spoken to and sit small till your name called. And that worked with my mother and my father and their fathers and their mothers. That's
yes, but before them, yes.
Yeah, that shouldn't be allowed anymore. The most important thing is to any individual is to know how important they are. They are the most important, and this, no matter whose child I meet, I try to break them out of that mindset that somebody else is more important than them. Yeah. And I try to treat everyone. That's why, in terms of my longevity, I often say to anyone, if you can find any malfeasance in any one of my 30 years of activism, if I change, if you caught me in a compromising position, please bring me the open shame. My integrity after all of these years means so much to me. Yeah. And that's all I want anyone to do. I hear people say things like, he's delusional, he's crazy. Yeah, you got to be crazy to dedicate yourself to your country like this. You have to be crazy. You got to be sold out. And I don't expect nothing else, All I want is a better country, and I'm ready to die for that cause. And I've proven I'm ready to die for this cause. That's all I want is a better country. I don't need no praises. I don't need nothing. All I know is the troubles that came today is my troubles, not my children's troubles. I got to deal with them.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And they can know that their dad tried to fight the system. He tried to change the system, even if he's not successful. That's the most important thing. But I will be remembered for trying to make my country better.
Yeah, and that's all you could ask.
The Enough movement.
What caused me to form the Enough movement is, again, after seeing that the people that I was instrumental in helping, that they will not have a country, because I told them to stay out of trouble. I told them to listen, this is how you do things, all right, and respect people, and you see everybody as yourself, see everybody as a reflection of you, and then they do that, and they're successful, but in the country is being governed in a way that they will not be able to be successful in this country. I would have failed them because I would have lied to them.
Wow.
Because they won't have a country. So I feel I owe it to them. Again, I'm still working for these people who I've built. And I want to make sure that they have a country. So when I saw that, especially when it came down to Hubert Ingram, when he one morning he woke up and he just changed the tax structure. He just, we bringing in vehicles from the auctions. I got like 15 cars on the harbor, and the car's duty went from 65% to 85%. Then they got the disposable fees and hazardous fees, and when you look, you spend 110,000 and 110% on a vehicle and duties and fees. And I'm like, I was not able to take off all the vehicles. I had to leave some of the vehicles on the harbor. So I said, wait a minute. So if this is this hard on me, you can imagine on these young men and I started fighting from there. I started fighting against the government publicly like that. I went to the radio station and I said I wanted a talk show. And I said, what I need to do? And I just went on the radio and I started venting. And when I noticed, wait, I didn't have enough material, I started doing more research. And when you look, these things are happening in my country. And then I couldn't believe the amount of things I was finding. I said, the information is right there.
Yeah.
So and when it was new, I was hyped, and it was kind of new to me, and I was screaming the information. So I sounded like a madman, Everybody said he's mad. I was like, don't you know, Aragonite? We are the wealthiest country on the planet.
Yeah.
So it was like a kid with all this newfound information, but I was frightening people. I mean, at one point, I went and I got 1,200 CDs, and I burned 1,200 CDs with information on the natural resources and on WTO. Those two were on the CD. One of my buddies just said I still got one of the CDs, and I stood on the corner and I was giving these CDs out. Man, I'm trying to wake these people up, just this rise up against this government. I mean, there's so many things. You remember in 2015 when Perry Christie and the PLP tried to stop the damaged vehicles from coming in the country?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I called my team together and we blocked up the highway, and I got locked up for that, fighting for these people. Because could you imagine what would have happened? How many of those people I taught body work to, they would have been out of work?
Yeah.
So I've been championing a lot of issues, and the WTO. That's the main topic for me. Ever since I found out what the WTO has done to the Caribbean and most post-colonial countries, I said, you know what? I got to put this Aragonite talk and this natural resources talk down and stop the WTO. So since 2001, I've been fighting against the WTO, and I've been successful. I picked up a lot of people along the way. They dropped off, but I've been fighting it ever since. And we got one more stance. It comes on the 29th of November of 2021. That's the main one right there. And that's how I can guarantee the election has to be called before then, because it will be political suicide to go into election, to go into the WTO after joining the WTO, because the shock it'll be on the country will be devastating.
Yeah.
So for those people are not knowledgeable on the WTO, give us a quick synopsis on the entire thing. What do the words WTO stand for, and what is their purpose, and how have they been helpful or harmful to progress?
Okay, well, right after World War II, the countries had so many damages, so they decided to form this agreement called GATT, the General Agreement of Tariff and Trade, and it was 125 countries that signed on, so that they negotiated what they wanted to trade, like wood, steel, and minerals, and what you can bring it in the country for. But those agreements were not binding. You were able to trade across border. Some agreed to trade free, and what that did, GATT actually lift the economy. The economy grew by at least 6% in each country, and that worked. But something took place in 1985. In 1985, they changed over to WTO. So WTO is the World Trade Organization, and they run on the platform of GATT, of success. But ever since WTO, they have not had no success stories, none whatsoever, because it's just how the rules were not binding in the GATT. It's totally the opposite. These rules and regulations of the WTO are binding. You can't step outside of the rules and regulations of these agreements. And since 2001, the Bahamas government made a cession to become a part of this WTO. And this WTO comes with stipulations like prerequisites. First, you must liberalize your telecommunication. That's why they sold Patelco. Patelco had over $50 million in the bank. and they still believe that that was sold because of a good business decision, which was crazy. Nobody saw that coming. And imagine VAT, value added tax. One of the things you lose at the border with WTO is your duty at the border. You lose all of your revenue, and with the structure that is set up here in Grand Bahama, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, this is the one I won against Chicago Line. I've been up against Ryan Pinder, Hope Strawn, Ian Winder. There's so many of them that I took on fighting the WTO, and the one who impressed me the most was Ryan Pinder. Ryan Pinder was the lead negotiator for the WTO for the PLP. And once he found out that everything would have to come in the country at zero rate, he said these words: "That will destroy our local economy."
Yes.
He woke up and he resigned from the position because he did, and he actually went public and said, "We are not ready for the WTO."
Wow.
Both administrations are still moving full speed ahead of it. Let me tell you the danger in this. I don't know if you know anyone that has a contractor's license right now who does construction work. You understand they got to get a new license, right? They don't have a license anymore.
Really?
No, that don't count anymore, because now, don't forget, you're going global. You're going to be able to go in 164 other nations and do work there also. So you have to qualify.
All right. So you have to now be on the level.
Yes.
On an international, worldwide level.
Yes. I'm telling you, these people are ready to. You know the people that sell those little drinks on the side of the road?
Yes.
That will not be able to happen.
Wow.
Why do you think they're getting a better business, a bureau of standards here in the Bahamas? You think that's to help us? That's to become WTO compliant. You see, these people with the water outlets, they will not be in business either. Now, guess what?
Wow.
Are you aware that there's no business or manufacturing reserved for Bahamians? None?
Wow.
None. Wow.
Are you aware that the Commercial Enterprise Bill, now law, causes now a company that can come here and bring as much staff as they want and don't hire a Bahamian?
Wow.
Wow.
So here's my question. Why do you feel that anybody in their right mind would sign on for something like this?
And the thing about it is, they're not asking us to sign on. We want to sign on. It's an agenda from someone with some port of entry who owns. See, these are the only people benefits who own ports of entries, who own factories. We are consuming.
But that's my point.
I don't know.
I understand that the elites are the people who are pushing this, and they are the people who are benefiting. What I'm asking you is, why do you feel that our leaders would be interested or encouraged to do this? Are they being paid so well that they don't care about what happens to the country? What do you think is the reason?
I just know there are some evil people, and then I hate to speculate. All I know is this, and all I know is this is not good for my country, and whoever is behind it, they got to fight on their hands. And
I agree. Every single Bahamian needs to stand up and fight against this. I'm just trying to figure out why such a terrible deal, such a terrible arrangement is being pushed full speed ahead, as you coined it. In reference to something of this nature.
You want to see something? You hear all the talk about natural resources. I mean, if you type in and do research on natural resources, but put WTO in the front of it, you understand that it says it's for open marketness. It's not protected. We will lose that and all. You type in WTO privatization. The government has to privatize all of their services. Imagine we are falling right into the hands of this WTO. Because now, the IMF, we are in the hands of the IMF, and we will be forced. We will be forced to, because we will not be able to make the payments on the loans. And this is exactly what they want. I see. And the thing about it is, one of the main things in WTO is the U.S. dollar has to be strong in the country. Our dollar is too strong, so they have to make sure that that's weak. You know, a few years ago, the IMF said it was overvalued.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you straight across the board. And I wanted to say this: value-added tax was established not to pay down the debt. Value-added tax was because we were going to lose all of the revenue at the border because of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. There's something called the most favored nation. That means you can't treat no company that comes into the Bahamas better than you treat another company. If you know how the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement works, once you're licensed under the Port Authority, you pay no taxes of any kind, only for consumables. That means you buy toilet paper, you pay tax on toilet paper. But you could bring in an equipment for $50 million, you don't pay no taxes on that. All right?
Wow.
But here's what the dilemma. There's no other country on the planet where everything that comes into that country comes in at zero rate. But the Bahamas will be the only country because of that agreement. Because the companies under the Port Authority pay no taxes, no company would have to pay taxes again once we become WTO compliant. You remember a few months ago when Mr. Turnquest came from Brussels and he said he had a press conference, and he said he had some good news. Here's what this good news was. He said the same way the offshore banks don't pay regulatory fees and license fees, we are now making it possible now that the domestic banks pay no regulatory fees and no license fees. Because that offshore bank is a part of the WTO, they now need to fall in line. Even when you hear them talk about government procurement, that's a WTO government procurement. You hear about the single window market, the click to clear. I mean, everything that they've been talking about, it's all because of WTO compliance. The photosanitary machinery, everything is WTO, the one world government. And you want to hear the spiritual side of it.
The worst thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the worst thing about it for the consumer, for the citizen, is that none of this benefits us in any way.
None. The thing about it is there's a non-discrimination policy. Non-discrimination policy of any kind of the WTO. Meaning if I can find someone to work for $1.65 an hour, like they do in Jamaica today, I can bring them here to work for that.
Yeah. And you can't do or say anything about that.
No.
Which means that those Bahamians who, even though the minimum wage is extremely low in comparison to other countries, especially with the level of expense, the cost of living in the Bahamas is very low. That means that those people who've been accustomed to even working for that low minimum wage are going to be that much more undercut.
I want to tell you that.
Wow. I'm sitting here listening, gentlemen, and I'm literally, I'm trying to envision the Bahamas that is to come if this goes through. And I'm just seeing nothingness. When it's all sweeping, and it is devious and defiant for any individual, political or otherwise, to state or to even attempt to represent that this will help Bahamian people. Because the principle of what is government and why the Bahamas was the bastion, in quotation marks, for a period of time. It was good, or it was better in the Bahamas comparatively than other Caribbean countries and other countries around the world, was because the Bahamas had the balls to stand up to international individuals and tell them, look, that might happen in your country, but that will not happen here because that does not benefit the Bahamian people. When our past leaders have said, none of them perfect, but when they said to an individual like a Donald Trump, like, look, pick your hotel up. If you don't want to come by our rules and carry it with you and you go, That is what we need. That is what the Bahamas needs. When he says in the Grand Bahama Creek Agreement or the Hawksby Creek Agreement, look, these rules are made to be bent. And if you don't bend, they can break. That is the fervor that we need. And this new set is completely opposite of that. To say that anything relative to the WTO, basically a recolonization of the Bahamas, economic recolonization of the Bahamas is good. Come on, people. You got a bunch of cowards. You got a bunch of people that just cowering. And they're trying to enslave the Bahamian people for years and years to come. That's what I see. Brother X, am I correct?
Spot on. Spot on. You know what I like? What I like is when young people like you get the message, you find a different way to relay it. That was excellent the way you did that.
Yeah,
Like I say to you, and I apologize for my era for not standing up long time.
yeah.
You're gonna have to join the fight because this is your country. You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to fight for this. It's all hands on deck now. This ain't no time to talk. This ain't no time to play because we need to learn on December 1st. On December 1st, these avenues that we have right now will be taken away. We just signed. I tell you, you got to be in the know. All of the mediums that we had, I said this years ago, this was coming. We're going to be censored in a way. These will not be able to be posted until it goes through a certain standard. I got to send you the article. I just read the article the other day. We are losing even the opportunity to strategize.
Wow.
So you guys are gonna have to get busy. One like me, I could tell you, my pleasure of living was building men, and I could remember one call coming after one of my videos, motivational videos. This guy called me sobbing, and he said, "Man, you don't know me, but I was one of those young children in the bench in church with you every Sunday. Used to take us for ice cream. You was the only father we knew." And I own my trucking company now in the States. And anything you need, I want you to call me. And he said, "Listen, every Sunday I take children for ice cream. You don't know what that meant for me." That's what I meant. That's what I'm all about. Building men. That's my heart.
We see that just simple small things.
We definitely need to get back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, simple small things in the formative years of individuals. And the reason why I am so adamant about this platform and adamant about the media and so on and so forth, just getting the message out in the word, is simply because my mentors or the individuals that have helped and shown me the way, have been so positive and adamant about what is Bahamian and what is being represented properly, and then I could even go back to the simple small things, that people take as trivial. When you're a little kid and you're in school and they teach you the song, it's a little silly rhyme. This land is my land. This yarn is your land. From Grand Bahama to the Berry Islands and Inagua, this land was made for you and me. Simple small stuff like that. But that is directly being attacked. And that's amazing. One, is commendable to have anybody to fight for that, because and then two, that is it seems like it's a backbreaker. Like they're going exactly at that. Question: You illuminated on it earlier, but whose agenda is this specifically? If you had to say, by the X.
We'll have to ask Hubert Ingram and Shabazz Lang. They were the ones. As a matter of fact, I did a show in Freeport. I did a show, and after the show, I got a call from the prominent businessman. And he called me over, and I went to sit down. And he said, "Here, put this in your pocket. You're doing an excellent job." I said, "Thank you so much, man." He said, "Let me tell you, you are spot on with that WTO." He said, Frank Watson, he was the deputy prime minister then. He said,
Yes.
he said to me on the flight, we were going back to Nassau. It was in the 2012 general election. He said, once we become Once we win government, we're going straight to the WTO. And he said, well, that will destroy my business. Now, he had a very large department store. And the guy since died then. But he says, we are going straight to the WTO. He said, well, that will destroy my business. He said, man, this is a tourist destination. You need to get in something to do with tourists, man. He said, but what about my staff? They need to get in tours also. So Frank Watson just admitted he knew that it would destroy his business.
Yeah.
And he's saying, get into the tourism. So Frank Watson and the F&M, they know exactly what will happen to this country. They don't care. You heard those words? This will destroy my business. And he said, well, get into tourism. He didn't say, no, it won't destroy it. He agreed.
Because he never said, oh, no, it won't.
Right.
And then start to explain.
Right.
He gives you, wow. Yeah.
And I said, whoa. He said, you got to stop it. I said, I've been trying to stop it. And let me tell you a secret. I've been looking kind of crazy inside some of those town hall meetings. And I've been to one town hall meeting where the lady spat on me. The lady knocked my phone off my hand. I was cursed at.
Self-hate. She hate herself. She hate herself. She don't even know what she meant into.
Yo, don't even know what I'm fighting for, man.
Fighting for you. Fighting for her. That's crazy.
I tell you.
See, I tell people that we're gonna fight for you until you wake up. And why? Because when I was asleep, other people were fighting for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that's what. Because you get discouraged, you get truly discouraged. But when you think about what the future is going to be without this information getting out there, when you think about the things that have been accomplished, whether major things or small things, while you didn't even realize what was going on, you didn't know why these people was fighting. No idea why they were marching. No idea why they were so passionate. And then when you learn, you're like, wow, if they did not do that, this would not have happened. I keep on telling people, everyone will not come. Please understand that. Everyone is not coming, all right? The same way how all slaves did not fight for freedom.
Right.
It's the same way how all of our people will not fight for what it is that we need. We just have to keep on pushing the message out there and trying to make certain that those who want to wake up, who are willing to learn, that they're able to get it. Because if you don't put it out there, nobody's going to hear it. Because mainstream media is not going to do it.
Who again, and our platform is one that's airtight. We're protected by copyright. We're protected by the truth. We're protected by a ravenous legal team. And we have an at-will clause. If anybody has a thing, like you said, we believe in our platform here that the truth, we're supposed to have a disagreement or disconcerting opinions because the greatest opinion will survive and survive scrutiny. You stated nothing but fact. In this fact, and we must know, it must be stated here, you called the name. Why is this such... Why would the Bahamas want to push into this? Where is this coming from?
It just doesn't make sense. All right, so before our time winds down, like I said, you started the Enough movement, and then you ended up having connections or ties to the evolution movement. So explain how that took place and explain why you are no longer interested in being a part of Mr. Bain and his organization.
Well, there was a interview with Clint Watson, and he called. He asked,
Who?
Clint Watson.
Sorry. Him that shall remain nameless.
Well, I mean, it's
on this platform, him that shall remain nameless. Yeah, but
I was on another platform. You can edit that. I was on another platform where I told the host I had three points I wanted to touch on. One was the high cost of living in Grand Bahama.
Yes.
Tax-free zone and the solution to it, and the natural resources and the true value. This is what I wanted, and I wanted to touch on the real conversation which should have been WTO,
Mm-hmm.
and then the solutions to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And when um, he came on, he asked a question that I had to just tell the truth. Um, and I don't apologize anymore because I'm cautious of what comes out of my mouth. I'm not going to say the wrong things, and I'm always going to be the best friend to truth. Truth will always be my best
Of
friend.
course. Of course.
So here it is. There is not only one person or one group that stood that I didn't take my money and go and stand with them. I stood with the police, the nurses, the doctors, the defense force. I stood with the nurses, the maids, the taxi drivers. I stood against the Port Authority, the power company, Bahama Rock. I went to Ocean Key, to Andrews to stop the mining. I went to Inagua. I went to Abaco. I went all over this country standing with others. I stood with everyone. I'm the only activist that reach out and I'd be taking people and buying T-shirts and I stood with everyone. So me standing with Lincoln for the natural resources was nothing new. So he stood for something I've been fighting for a very long time, and it has nothing to do about me getting any fame or anything because I'm really popular, and that's not what it's all about. I want results. And I said to Mr. Lincoln Bain, I said, listen, when he called, he wanted to start the Aragonite talk. I said, listen, this is not the time for it. We should talk about the vaccine and making sure that Minis doesn't have the power to make it mandatory. Let's be able to defy some of the orders, the lockdowns, because all we have to do is take ivermectin and kill this COVID. This is crazy. Yes. This is madness. This from September of last year. I'm saying this to him. I've already had in NASA already had like 2 protests before I met with Lincoln on the vaccine. I had T-shirts already made up. See, I stay ahead of the government and their game. Yeah. You see their agenda, I'd be ahead of it, and so that's why I'm always on point. I had a call from Mr. Pintard. And he said, listen, you actually destroyed the F&M party with your information, I heard Obi Wilscombe said the same thing. He said, listen, you've been a thorn on the PLP and the F&M. And let me tell you a secret, you are to be commended. You've taken Facebook and you turned it into a learning platform. And that's to be commended. So when you see me stand with anyone, it's not because of who the person is. It's what they're standing for.
Right. As it should be.
I didn't know Lincoln from a can of paint. So I said, listen, bro, I'm coming to stand with you. But I would like for you to stand with me against the vaccine. Because the vaccine would be the topic. And that's where we're at now. We're at now mandatory vaccine. If you can't come to work. So we're in that space what I was talking about in September. Yes. We should have stood against the weak leader that we have, the very weak man that will sign us on to the one world government. I call them weak men. And I say to anyone that ever hears this, understand that this country does not belong to the people you vote for. Understand this country belongs to our children. Understand that we are to protect the future generations, and this space that we take, we borrow this. Let's protect this space with our very life. So me standing with Lincoln means nothing. I bought what I bring with Lincoln, and anyone I stand with, I bring a wealth of information, knowledge, love, and dedication to this country. And nobody can ever point a finger and say, listen, I paid him to do this. Can you imagine? After my talk show, I'm talking about WTO, I'm talking about aragonite, and I'm talking about the calcium carbonate, I'm talking about the manganese, I'm talking about so much minerals. And there was a member of parliament outside my studio. I need to see you a minute. And I say, what's up? You gonna come in to take me out or something? He said, man, come on, man. So I sat in the car, we talking. He said, you talking about aragonite like somebody want aragonite. The Chinese don't want no aragonite. I said, what they want? He said, they want that mud off the west coast of Andros. I said, what mud? You don't know about the mud? He said, that mud is so solidic, you could dip that out of the water right now and use that for lubricant. I said, oil? He said, yeah. He said, yeah. I said, what they waiting on? He said, they're trying to get it to light like fuel. I said, you serious? He said, yeah, man. He said, listen, you need to come get yours and stop trying to be some kind of hero.
Wow.
Stop trying to be a hero.
Wow.
You know, right now, today, yeah, this has to get out. There's a guy in Chubkey who owns Chubkey, has his own oil rig, floating rig. I talked to a gentleman that works on the rig. He makes $2,500 a week when that rig is working, and they take oil out of the Bahamas every month. I tell you, there's so much happening, right? Yes, so much happening.
But yet still they're telling the people that they did this exploration and they didn't find anything, and this has been going on for a long time. I mean, this is a different company, but I'm saying they're making it seem like they didn't find anything viable.
I told you when I spent 2 nights on Ocean Key, you know, but you can't talk about Aragonite unless you go to Ocean Key, right? I spent 2 nights at Ocean Key and a skeleton crew there. So they needed a satellite fix. So I went, one of my buddies who fixed satellites. It was back in the day when satellite was a thing. So when we were fixing the satellite, he was giving me the whole rundown, and he was showing me how they was used to dredge, and they dredged the aragonite out of the shallow banks and put it up on top of the hopper, and then it goes onto the belt and goes onto the stockpile. And he tells me, hey, we get like 1 ship a month. So to the naked eyes, it looks as if they're not doing much business out there.
Right.
And he said at one point it was around the clock activity. The machine kept running, the dredger kept going, and it was around the clock. It was a non-stop business. They had customs out there and everything. They had nothing out there when I was there, just a skeleton crew. But when we were leaving, he took the people I took off of Bimini, and I saw this big ocean tanker out there, and I saw this long line running from the tanker, and I said, "Could you fly over there?" Guess what they were doing? They were using vacuum pumps and sucking the aragonite out and putting it into the hull of the ship. So they don't use the dredger no more. They don't use the hopper no more. They don't need the stockpile no more.
Right.
You understand that right now today they are using ships that build ships just to take the aragonite out of the Bahamas with vacuum pumps. One man could operate that. They pull up and and they suck the aragonite out and take off and goes. And see, what a lot of people don't understand and why they say it doesn't have any value is because there's an international term called arm's length agreement, meaning that you are able to set up a dummy company. So your company A is the dummy company, company B is the real company. So you're able to take this company A and say you paid $2 a metric ton.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And company B can sell it for 6 or 10 or 20. And there's nothing illegal about it because you have the agreement with the initial company.
Right.
So whatever the initial company can show the proof for that this is what we sold it for. Okay, so you sell me a car and you sold the car at $500. I was able to find somebody who wanted to pay $5,000 for the car. That don't have nothing to do with you.
Right.
We had an agreement. I paid you your money, and I got mine, and that one name over.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. But where I'm at with the evolution now is, boy, when they came to Grand Bahama, I rolled out the red carpet. Now, I wasn't at Freeport for a minute because, I was recovering from 2 broken legs. You didn't know that I had cancer, stage 4 cancer. I was fighting that. I actually had it.
And still going all out while you were going through.
Yeah. No, I had a tumor in my head, and they said they couldn't do nothing with the tumor. So I had given up. I went to Andrews, and I said, well, I'm going to die. They said they wanted to try the radiation. I said, bro, I'd rather just die. And I said, God, I don't know what you put me through all of this for. It was a big fight between me and God. And I go in Andrews. I went to Andrews, and I was in my apartment. I was building in Andrews also, and I just taking painkillers all day. And I said, boy, one morning I ain't going to wake up. I started to lose control of my left leg, and I couldn't feel my foot. I said, boy, this must mean I'm going. I couldn't wait to die. And my sister died a few months later. So Again, she died from cancer also. And that's another thing with Grand Bahama we got to talk about, man. And I tried to get on the plane, and I slipped. And the next thing you know, my two legs broke in the femur, one to the right, one to the left. And I'm trying to, everybody's screaming, and I'm like, whoa, what just happened? I felt every day I think about it, it's like, whoa, what just happened? I couldn't believe it, you know? But I had to battle through cancer. And battling through cancer, God broke my legs, and he was like, get back to work. You know, you got a job to do. And, you know, people say, are you serious? Think God broke it? Trust me, I'd given up. I had given up on everything. I had given up. I was fighting for marriage, family, country. I just was tired of fighting. I was tired of fighting for everything, you know, fighting for health. And I said, you know what? For God, I just give up. I mean, you can't give up once God, you have an assignment.
Yeah.
And I realized that. I haven't been back to Andrews since. I'm afraid to go back, guys.
Yeah, because of what happened. You don't want to happen again.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, so I'm here. I have the cancer under control. It's called multiple myeloma. A lot of people don't know this, but in 1964, the Bahamas closed its border. Yeah, you know why? Closed its border because of the polio. They had a polio outbreak in '63, and they closed the border. But they had a polio vaccine given to the Bahamians. 130,000 Bahamians took this polio vaccine, and the vaccine it was given. You see that mark on your left shoulder?
Yeah.
It was that, but the CDC revealed that it was called SV40 polio vaccine, and they said it was laced with cancer. And it's hereditary. That's why the cancer. One of the reasons could be right. And I don't want to say that like that. One of the reasons it could be why the cancer rate is so high in the Bahamas, because of that same polio vaccine. And we here now still trusting the CDC.
You know? And vaccine. Yes, exactly.
And vaccine. You know, there's just so much to say and so much to talk about, man. But I know you're running out of time.
No. You definitely welcome to our platform. We definitely gonna have to have you back as a guest. But what you're saying is 100% fact on Spartan proven. A lot of Bahamians don't even know. When I went to school in the United States, I met a young lady from she was from Uganda, and she said to me, you know, we were just sitting out front of the office, as far as students just getting into school and so on. And they asked her for, I guess, you know, your immunization and so on and so forth. And she was sitting there with her hands folded, and she said she wore extra long sleeve today. And she was like, well, why? She said, because. And then she pulled my arm up and she showed, and she looked for the mark. And then she said, it's funny that the same mark from the immunization she hasn't seen on any American. You know, the same job that kind of turns out a little big on your arm when you have it. She said, but it's out. You could tell people who international have this. You know, that's first and foremost. And then secondly, I've did some more research on the own thing. A guy named Shin Gwyn, who has a podcast, puts out Bahamian information and such. He talked about basically the reasoning why the Bahamas wanted autonomy or independence, because something was dropped off of the coast. Yes, the Abacos. And then Freeport. You know, maybe there might have been multiple doses. Nobody knows. But correct, or you know, and it was dropped in the water, you know, off the coast of these places. And obviously, if you look at the numbers, Freeport has a male population. Freeport has one of the highest testicular cancer, you know, populations in the whole entire Bahamas, let alone the Caribbean. You know, the average male in Freeport lives to be 55, maybe 60. The cancer population is basically endemic and hereditary. Definitely, like you said, in Andros. So it's something went on here. Just the fact state as such. So that was supposedly the Bahamas government wanted to come in and be the savior and to stand up for Bahamian people, but now with the WTO and these other things, acceptance, we have to question. It makes me question if you're standing up. Is the model still the same of what it was initially when they came in?
The intention is obviously not still the same because as the money became greater for them, it's obvious that they are truly about their own pockets because we can see it on a regular basis with many different situations. No, and I'm just speaking about the things that are clear to us, not even those that you have to dig into like the WTO and whatnot. You can see it from basic general contracts. You can clearly see what the agenda is. So how can you trust the people who clearly only care about themselves?
Right, right. But KCX, couple cool questions. First and foremost, everybody talks about natural resources, and you've been on this longer than whoever it is. We'd hope to have other guests on our show to talk about certain things, but right now you're the most preeminent individual speaking about this, and obviously you have a wealth of knowledge of and far exceeding anybody else in this topic. If you had to give a numeric evaluation for each Bahamian, if you could just estimate of what let's just say if all the natural resources were controlled by the Bahamas government of the Bahamas, and then it was evenly shared, in an idealistic way, in a perfect Bahamas or a perfect world, how much would you say would be the average valuation of each Bahamian citizen walking around today?
Okay, I want to read something to you. All right, listen. This took place on the 15th of December 2015 in the House of Assembly. Remember, whatever is said in the House of Assembly is truth, especially when the opposition says nothing. Mr. Kenrick Dorset said the Bahamas Sovereign Wealth Fund regime has been benchmarked against the likes of Norway, which has the largest fund in the world. Today, it's over $1 trillion.
Right.
Does that tell you what we are worth?
Yeah.
They have over 5 million people. And we're being benchmarked to that, the Sovereign Wealth Fund. That means we are the wealthiest country on this planet.
Wow.
Yes.
Imagine this. Anything you want to know about the makeup of the Bahamas, any mineral you want to know about in the Bahamas, it was a prerequisite back in the day. In order to enter the universities in the United States, you had to study the minerals of the Bahamas. And every finding that they found, they put it in they documented and gave it to the government. So the government of the Bahamas is well aware of how wealthy we are. What they have at their disposals, they know that we will not unite for a cause. So it'll be a game being played on us. No matter how much information I put out there, no matter how much I've shown them how wealthy we are. At a point, I used to call names of who told me it, and I recognized it didn't make no sense. I used to, I mean, come on. Right now, we're at a place where we need a revenue as a country, and they still refuse to tap in. Here's the solution. I would wish the question would have been, what is the solution? The solution to the natural resources is this.
That was my next question. Yeah.
Okay, the international laws. We were part of. I thought it was 190 treaties, but when I was fighting the WTO, and this was the lady, the white lady with Chicago Lang. I forget her name. She said, I said to Ava. I said, Ava, tell me something. How many treaties are we a part of? Over 900. I say, what?
Well,
I say, for what? Why do we be a part of treaties? Name one treaty that we benefit from.
Exactly. That was going to be my question.
What we can take advantage of is an international treaty, right? The international treaty of odious agreements and odious debt. Are you aware that, boy, I'm all over the place, but I got to get this out. Are you aware from 2015, January 1st to January 1st, 2021, we've collected over $9 billion in value-added tax. And not one penny.
I am aware. I'm always shouting, where the hell is the money going?
And not one penny paid on the national debt.
Exactly. Where's the money going? Seeing as how that's why you all said we needed it to pay the debt.
Yes. So if we were a country of people who are thinking, you should say, I'm turning my point of sale back to zero. We did our part.
Right.
We already paid off the national debt. And see, odious agreement causes our country to be able to do things like that. If the government of a country borrows money and you're not able to see where the money went, you're able to implement something called an odious agreement. And the people who borrowed that money are supposed to pay that back. Here is with the odious agreements. Being that we were a colonial country, every mineral belonged to who? The Queen.
Yeah.
Once the agreements that were made back then, like the one here in Grand Bahama from 1955, those minerals didn't belong to us. Once we became independent, every grain of sand belonged to the minerals, and the minerals belonged to the Bahamian people.
Right.
So the government of the Bahamas has something in our laws called a watermark. Nothing beneath the watermark belongs to no one other than the Bahamian people. So the Port Authority is giving out license to do mining. How could you give a mining license to chop up somebody's country and sell it?
Right.
That sound like it makes sense.
This land is our land. This land is my land.
That land ain't coming back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I didn't sign off on it. So how can you?
Are you aware from 1955 to today, we've not made one penny from the Hawksbill Creek, from that Deepwater Harbor? From the mining going on there? Not one penny?
Not one penny.
Not one penny going to the Treasury?
Yeah.
And these are odious agreements because these agreements were made up where the people don't benefit. That's what odious agreement says. If you don't benefit, it's an odious agreement.
Wow.
And these are things that can be implemented straight across the board. And my style of governance is simple, common law. Show me where it's done, how it's done, and how can we implement it. And we want best practice policy across the board. That's all I want for governance in my country. I don't want to know that, watch this. You see, these people believe that the government is, their members of parliament supposed to come and give them a turkey and a ham and supposed to give a gift card. Are you aware the parliamentary rule states that there should be no giving of any gift because it can be seen as bribery?
Correct.
He's supposed to step down and fine $10,000?
Correct.
And these things are not being implemented.
Yeah.
I've been fighting this so many different issues. Man. One of the main issues we have to deal with is true freedom. We need to be independent. We need to get away from the 1873 penal code. The 1873 penal code has a handcuff. Miss Kamalafi the other day, and I waited to see if anyone was going to touch on it, but they didn't. I've been arrested so many times, and I've won these cases so many times. I stood before the judge after being arrested, and she said to me, "You are being charged with an illegal assembly and an unlawful assembly or something of that nature," in long song and dance. I said, "Yeah, that's what the penal code says. Your penal code of 1873 says that, but my constitution gives me rights to advocate. As a matter of fact, in my constitution, it speaks nothing about an unlawful assembly. Where is unlawful assembly found in the constitution?"
Yeah.
She picks up her constitution, she picks up her penal code, and she says, "You are absolutely right, Mr. Colbert. Case dismissed." So Ms. Kamalafi, see, and this is where we had the commissioner of police. The commissioner of police, he said these words: "I'm operating the police force under the Constitution." Bang, we got him. Mr. Commissioner.
Yes, exactly. Because if you operate under the Constitution, and the penal code has no relevance.
Exactly. What we must understand about the penal code, right shortly after slavery was abolished, the penal code came about. What do you think that was for?
Of course.
to govern the slaves. So we have
To govern these niggas. These
that's
niggas.
exactly that's exactly what it was. It was there to govern us. And the thing about it, it has language of still of the slave mentality. It says if the master can still flog his servant.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
If you sing a song that offends me, I could actually report you to police and have you arrested.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
The
So
wow.
go ahead, sorry.
Just from a factual standpoint, as we talking about it, been fact checking some of it.
Uh-huh.
The Norway Sovereign Fund with 5 million people, the Bahamas is probably 10% of that on a good day, which was 400,000 people. Um, they're saying it's worth at least $200,000 rounding off per Norway individual for Norway citizen. That was the latest valuation in 2018. So obviously, if it's about the same as it would be in Norway, the Bahamas definitely, with 400,000 people, would definitely stand to gain or have a lot more within its sovereign wealth to be broken down and disseminated to its people. On the secondary note, as far as the penal code and you mentioned something relative to independence. We had a show previously about that. We don't understand. We're still on the fence, trying to clarify as to where this. Are we? Is the Bahamas still really independent? And I know from what you're stating and what we've known, it's not economically independent either. So with all that as we wrap here, where what would be the perfect Bahamas in case in your mind? What would be the perfect? What factors or things would have to lead to and change to make the perfect Bahamas as we see it in the future?
From a standpoint of independence, we find ourselves in the same way me and Motley found ourselves. We have a choice to stay in this position with this colonial system we call the Westminster system.
Mm-hmm.
In a perfect Bahamas, I think everyone should have a choice and who they want to govern them. I think there should not be a political party that is saying, okay, I'm going to get someone popular and this is who you're going to vote for. And I'm going to leave some stalwart counselor to vote who they want to be in your constituent. You should be able to do that. So I'm always thinking about a Republic Bahamas where you get to choose who you want in the Senate, who you want to be your member of parliament, who you want even to as a independent commissioner of police, who you want to be your president. I
Yeah.
think everyone should have a choice in who they want to govern them. And I think the best man should win. That's the perfect Bahamas for me.
Yeah.
In terms of the natural resources, again, we need to own these industries. And we can take a page out of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. The Hawkesbury Creek Agreement says the minerals are to be used to attract investors, to create industries, to create jobs. That mineral coming out of the Hawkesbury Creek can be used in over 1,000 items.
Wow.
Every island is made up of limestone, calcium carbonate, and aragonite and sand. Each one of those are at least 1,000 items. I mean, and the way you deal with the electricity is in 2001, the Bahamas government signed a heads of agreement with a company called OTEP to produce clean energy and clean drinking water from the ocean. And this is all we have to do straight across the board. We don't need to be investing in solar panels and worrying about batteries and we get this energy situation sorted out and use the ocean. Any right-thinking person, are you aware that they have sand technology to produce clean energy? They have molten salt plants around the globe that produce clean energy. Are you aware that the conch shells, it's a purest form of calcium carbonate, can be used in so many minutes? If you add conch shells to rubber, it gets stronger.
I've witnessed that. Yeah, I've witnessed Chinese come over here and just break the shoreline of conch shells. Just
You imagine. Let me close with this. I'm glad you said Chinese. Let me tell you how serious the WTO is. There's something called WTO fisheries, low hanging fruit. Since the Doha round, they've been having so much trouble with sorting out on subsidies. Let me tell you what that is. In countries where it's cold and they don't have the soil or the water, they send farmers in countries like the Bahamas and Jamaica and Haiti, and they fund these farmers, and they are able to put the local farmers out of business.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bahamas is ripe and ready for these fishermen. You want to see something? Can you imagine? Well, there's so much things. Oh man, so much things. I'll take all day. The fisheries industry will be destroyed.
Yeah.
When I say destroyed, as a matter of fact, can you imagine that we closed the crawfish season, the grouper season, on the Bahamians only because the poachers season never closed.
Yeah, that's true.
If you want, I did a paper on that where I did. I was doing a paper where, sorry, I did a paper where you check the budget line on those countries south of us when our season are closed, and watch the amount of crawfish they take it in. We are playing. Yeah. Say, if we can want to be a part of it, we want to sign treaties. What about signing treaties with the countries south of us and putting our military base on the southern side, and then making a treaty that no boats leave these ports unless it has a tracking system on it? Seriously?
Yeah.
Drones? Come on. Hello?
Ones that you can actually go online and look up the price and see that what they got was not nowhere near the value of what they said.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
continue.
Yeah, man. This has been a pleasure.
We definitely appreciate you here. We're gonna have you on in the future. It's just so much to cover, but it's also necessary.
Yeah, I think we need to cover.
Too much information.
Yeah, we need to cover one or two maybe, because I'll be all over the place.
No. You know, everything is well received.
Something me and C. Allen said. Something I said to C. Allen the other day. I say, what people must understand is, when I go places with C. Allen, he can be the mouthpiece. I will sit there. We were on the talk show one time, and someone would say, "Casey in there." I say, "No, that's me talking." I say, you don't envy people. What you need to understand is, see, Alan has so much time in his craft. See, you envy this. Well, this is what I do. I notice somebody's craft and I admire the craft, because what they got more time in the craft. Nobody's smarter than anyone else, you know. They just got more time into their craft.
No.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Nobody's smarter. Yeah. We're all born with the same capabilities, but that person has more time into the craft. And I encourage men to not be jealous of KCX. All right? Because KCX, this flesh ain't KCX. You hear the X? That means something, you know. I'm awake, man. I'm way more than this. I'm from Africa. I was here before Africa. You know what I'm saying? I'm way more than Africa.
My brother. All right.
I'm a reflection.
I'm talking for another show, but yes, my brother, energy.
I tell you, let me share this with you. I saw this guy on the side of the road years ago, and this is when I became awake. And it was during the summer, and I saw these cars passing. He was passing this guy by. And I turned around, and he's on the ground, and I say, "Wow, bro, it's hot. What are you doing here? You need a ride?" And they couldn't understand a word. It was just gibberish. La, 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 la. I say, "Tell me something. You need to go somewhere? Would you like some water?" La, 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 la. I said, "Tell me something. Who are you?" He said, "I am you." That was me. That was me. I am a reflection of all man.
Right.
That's the mindset. I am a reflection of all man.
Wow. We definitely appreciate you here. We appreciate your time here. We will have you on in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into this love speech. Anybody that's willing to tell you about your country and tell you where you could be better and tell you where they're getting us and tell you, do the informative research and go above and beyond to just bring this information to you free of charge. Free of charge. To help you and they help you put your grandchildren and your children and your great grandchildren in a better position. That's love speech. That's love speech. You can't classify it as nothing else. So
Yes.
we thank you here. One final question, and I gotta ask: who would you say is the top 3 worst leaders in Bahamian history? Just give me them quick, because we want to know based on the numbers, based on what your research and all of this.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Could I take a pass on that one?
All right then.
No problem.
It was such a wonderful show to end on that.
We can leave you. We can leave that one. We can leave that one for another time. We can get back to it.
Yeah, man.
But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the Humblest Opinion. Myself, Tony Bahama, Malik Aligamba, and our brother KCX. All we try to do on this platform is just make you think. Make you come to the knowledge and the wisdom of yourself and your country and your surroundings. We thank you and are thankful for our guest, brother KCX. Here will be joining us again in the future soon. And we thank you until next time here on the Humblest Opinion.
Hey, the song that you guys use? I used to use that in my show,
Let me go. See, there we go. I know destination, you never been there before. Oh, no reservation, come on, let's go and explore. If you never know before, well, it's your chance to know.